Hello there, and welcome to Jump Button Gamer Podcast. I'm Mike Woodard, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and good friend, Kosta. How's it going today, man?
I'm okay. I'm okay. We'll talk about it later, but I didn't get my Xbox.
Oh, man. See, that was going to be my chit-chat to start the show with you.
Oh,
but
well,
that's fine. That's fine. On today's show, we're going to talk about the bombshell announcement that Microsoft has revealed they are acquiring ZeniMax Media, which includes Bethesda and related game studios. Kosta's already celebrating. We will dig into the fallout from that move in just a little bit, and we'll also have a round of game news. See, isn't that a great pun to start the show with? Yep. Yeah, isn't that great? See, I'm getting so much better at this. But first, Kosta, you already hinted at it, but so you spoiled it already a little bit. How did your pre-order experience for Xbox Series X
not great.
go?
I mean, when you're a working adult and you've got other responsibilities to do, where you can't be glued to a computer at a specific time, it makes things difficult. I mean, I was in the middle of doing something that required my attention at my job, and I mean, I had my iPhone in my hand, and at my work the Wi-Fi also isn't the greatest either, so I figured I would have my best luck working through the Amazon app, and when 11 p.m. East Coast time started, I was refreshing, and the listing for the Xbox Series X was not popping up. And in the world that we live in now, where people go crazy for pre-orders on the latest and greatest game consoles, computer components, and other things of the like, after 5 minutes, everything's gone.
Absolutely.
So at 11:05 ish, Amazon still wasn't showing the Xbox Series X, showing up in searches, and so then I was trying other major retailers, GameStop. I know GameStop eventually got around to doing the like the virtual line or whatever. They would put everyone in a queue or whatever, and if you were one of the lucky ones that was early enough in the queue, you were able to pre-order. But when I tried GameStop initially, their site was crashing, though. Sure. They hadn't gotten that up yet. The site was crashing, Microsoft Store was crashing, Walmart was crashing, Best Buy was crashing. Like, all these websites were just out. And obviously, I don't have the best internet. I'm on, subpar Wi-Fi. So pretty quickly, I came to terms with the fact that I wasn't going to get a Series X pre-order. My youngest brother actually was going to try his hand at pre-ordering one at a GameStop, and the GameStop closest to where he is, it said online that they were opening at noon. So my brother's like, all right, I'll show up, a half hour early and just wait for them to open. And he shows up and the store's already open, and the guy's like, yeah, we opened up an hour early for Xbox Series X pre-orders, and the store itself was only allowed to for pre-orders.
I heard that from somebody else that GameStop had like crazy low amounts of these pre-orders.
Yeah, if you're like a low, especially, I'm assuming higher volume locations were given more pre-orders to take in. But this is definitely a smaller GameStop that he went to. They were only allowed 4, which I heard at some locations that were only allowed 2, right? And here's the other thing too. And I'll admit this, we'll have to do a segment at some point in the near future where we talk about stories from when we worked at GameStop. But I wouldn't be surprised if the employees that work at GameStop already took some of the pre-orders for themselves. Right, because they get that they get that perk.
I wouldn't be shocked.
They work there, so they technically get first dibs, even though the customers might not always think that. So, what they would more than likely, I would imagine, is they say they only have 4, but realistically, they could have had like 6 or 7 but employees took the first few, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, we've only got 4.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. The amount of times I've seen like managers say like, "Hey, hide this under the counter so that we don't put it out because I want to take this home."
Yep.
Like we could definitely have a good long segment about that. Absolutely, that is the case. So
Yep.
that's not surprising at all. So you were unsuccessful, unfortunately.
Unsuccessful. Microsoft did say that there will be more inventory of the Series X available on launch day on November 10th. I mean, I'll try and see if I can get lucky enough to purchase it from one of the major retailers
Sure.
that'll have it. I mentioned to you, before we started recording the podcast, that when the Xbox One originally came out, I didn't get it until the February after it had come out in November. But that was mostly because I said, well, there really aren't a whole lot of games that pique my interest on the Xbox One, so I'll wait. And,
Sure.
So I let those few months go by, and I think what got me to do it was there were 3 games that came out. Well, you had Tomb Raider, the first
Sure.
Tomb Raider in the newer trilogy. You also had Assassin's Creed Black Flag, the upgraded version for Xbox One, and then the game that I was intrigued with but ultimately very disappointed by was the Thief reboot.
Oh, that's right.
And
I
so
remember that.
all those sort of came out roughly around the same time, and so I had a small stack of games to work with and play on the Xbox One. But I waited those first few months. But in this case with the Series X, though, you have so many games you can play on it. I mean, Cyberpunk,
Right.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla,
And then you have the Game Pass as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
having access to all those games is definitely an incentive right off the bat.
Yep. So, but we'll see. I'll try my best to get it as quickly as I possibly can, but
Right.
won't have it day one, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. And hey, for those games that you did get for waiting for the Xbox One, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Because those were 2 out of 3 really good games.
Yeah, Black Flag and Tomb Raider were really great.
That's not
yeah.
too bad.
But Thief was the one I was most excited about. I was like, oh,
Right.
It just was a complete disappointment. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Yeah. So, I'm going to take... It's a little cold in here, so I'm just going to put this jacket on. I may have put it on wrong. Anyway... Oh, and you know what? I can't leave my head left. There we go. So I have a Spider-Man jacket on. I got this beanie with the PlayStation symbols. So obviously that's leading up to some good Sony news for me at the very least. And that's the fact that I was able to get my hands on a PS5 pre-order. Wow, I was so terrible at trying to put this jacket on. I'm sorry. I was trying to sneak this on during the last segment.
But you managed to get it as a part of the second wave of pre-orders that
I did.
That
yes.
Sony put out. Yeah.
Yeah, I will admit this was not the exact pre-order I was hoping to get. I was hoping to get the digital edition. I did not get the first wave of pre-orders, obviously. GameStop just the other day had a wave of stock come in, but they announced that the day before, and then the day of, they did that same thing where they had the waiting queue, and you had to go on their site, and they had like a digital wait room for you to sit in. And so I had at least 3 or 4 computers up that all had that link ready to go. And every single time, though, I would be let in, and I'd go, immediately, they would show all 3 consoles, the digital, the physical, and the bundle. And every time, it said not available. Even though I was being let in, I was like, what? How is that true? And I was doing everything I could that day. Like, I was at my computer all day. I was following tweets and stuff like that. And finally, somebody indicated that if you try to get the bundle, if you keep refreshing that page, they seem to eventually come in and out of stock. So that's what I did. I just said, you know what? This maybe isn't exactly what I want, but it's close enough. And I wanted to get my hands on one because I have a very bad feeling when it comes to the PlayStation's stock. once these like rounds of pre-orders and stuff like that are gone, they're going to be almost impossible to find. Like, and unfortunately, unlike the Xbox One X for you, there are a lot of games from the PS5 coming out within this next year that I really want. Mm-hmm. And right now with COVID, with supply chains all screwed up, I didn't want to take the risk that I might not get a PlayStation 5 for another year or so.
Right.
So, yeah, so I paid a little bit extra, but I got the console bundle. So it comes with an extra controller, it comes with Spider-Man Miles Morales Ultimate Edition, and it comes with Demon's Souls, which I wouldn't have bought under normal circumstances, but whatever. I got myself a pre-order of the PlayStation 5, so I was very happy about that. The beanie I just happened to get from Micro Center this past week. I just saw it in a bin, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's funny you mentioned, because I'm actually getting a new computer, so I was buying component parts for it, and as I was checking out, I just happened to see this in a bin, so I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll take this. And it worked out perfectly for today's segment, so... But, yeah, so I am now very, very, very excited. Like, yes, there's still some hesitancy about, some games and stuff like that with the PlayStation, but now that I actually have my hands on a pre-order, I'm, like, super stoked. Because I was really bummed that I wouldn't get to play it, and now I'm very, very happy. So it's a very harrowing experience, and this pre-order system needs to get better. We talked about this a little bit before the show, but... it's just a mess, like I believe companies have to get involved, and they need to be clear and upfront about, and to Microsoft's credit, that's what they did, at least, where you have to come out and say, okay, they will be released on this day at this time, because at least then we have a fair shot. What happened with Sony was just a disaster. And that should never happen again, because that was awful. And I don't know what they'll do to fix it, but we need a better system than this. By the way, the beanie's going to stay on for the rest of the show.
I'm holding out some hope that maybe GameStop will do something similar to what they did with the PlayStation and have a second wave of pre-orders. So we'll see how that goes. But, I'll get it when I get it.
Even though it's great that games... Sure. Even though GameStop did that they announced it, they announced it, but then on the day of, they were dead quiet. Like, they didn't say anything. They didn't give us a timing, or they didn't say, hey, pre-orders are available now, live, now, go. No, they just were dead quiet, and you were left there just sitting there refreshing all day. So even that was frustrating.
Yeah. Well,
just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, either way, even if I don't get the Series X too soon after release day, I'll still be able to play Cyberpunk and everything on my One X and everything, and
that's true.
So. Because there really aren't any, at least any, like, Series X exclusive games that are coming out, in the fall. Everything that's coming out I can play on my One X, so I'm really not going to be missing out on the games. I'll just be, I guess, missing out on the improved performance and whatever, and that's, that's not the end of the world, But we'll see. I'm hoping there'll be a second wave of pre-order soon. I'm really hoping. I would like to get my hands on a Series X.
Let's move on to the first segment of today's show, and we're going to talk about, as always, our now playing. Kosta, what have you been playing recently?
I actually have a new game in the mix that I started playing. I watched, because Nintendo had a mini direct recently, and one of the games that was announced that coming to Switch that actually ended up releasing right after the direct was over is a game called Hades. And it's like this roguelike dungeon
okay.
crawler, and it is so much fun to play. I've played for about a couple hours, but if you are someone who enjoys games like Diablo or Torchlight, anything like that, then this game's like right up that alley, and I would highly recommend picking it up. To play on Nintendo Switch. Other than that, I haven't. This past week for work and everything has just been so insanely busy. So I haven't had too much time to play many games, but I have been able to put a couple hours into Hades.
Well, hey, that's okay. I mean, we're busy adults. It happens. Trying to find a block of time to play games is nearly impossible. I have finally got to play Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and I immediately jumped into playing Super Mario Sunshine because I missed that game, and my old GameCube disc of it got scratched up to the point that it doesn't play, even though I do have a functioning GameCube still. Or, well, I have a Nintendo Wii. But, so I got to play Sunshine. I already beat it in terms of getting through the story and getting to Corona Mountain. I already beat it. It took like 3 days. It's funny the difference of how I would play that game back when it came out as opposed to now. Because now, it's been, I mean, that game came out in 2002. Ugh. It's been so long. I've seen so many speed runs and people playing through the game that I actually I don't view myself as a speedrunner at all, but I do enjoy taking tactics from speedrunners and putting them into games so that I can get past the more annoying parts of older games. And that's what I did with Sunshine, and it was awesome. There were a few glitches that I learned how to do just by watching some of the speedruns and some of the tutorials, and once I pulled them off, I was like, yes! Like, I felt so good about myself. Like, it's hard to explain, but it just, in that moment, I was like, yes, I did it! It was fun. I've yet to play Mario 64 or Galaxy, but I had a lot of fun replaying Sunshine. Even though it is it is one of those games where I still enjoy it, but maybe thank goodness for nostalgia, because if I didn't have it and I tried playing it nowadays, I don't know how much I would like it.
Right.
I mean, it's true. There are some levels where after I finished that level, I was like, man, that level is dumb.
It's always funny when...
Which I probably wouldn't have said back then.
Yeah, it's always funny when you go back and revisit something from your childhood because, because you have the memories of how much fun you had playing it, and obviously, when you're that young, you don't have like the developed critical thinking skills in order to look at something as complex as a video game, like level design and things like that, and say, oh, this is really dumb, But then when you're older and you've developed that ability to have like these complex thoughts and formulate an opinion on these things, then you go back and you think, wow, man, like, how did I think this was fun? But then again, that's not always the case for I mean, some games I think generally like hold up despite how old they might be.
Sure.
I mean, why do you think was it you have like Super Mario Maker, I mean, it does that is literally like what started it all for Nintendo, right? Just like the basic Mario, side-scrolling, platforming, jumping, very basic. Obviously, you can get very crazy and very technical with like level builds and stuff like that. But the concept, like the foundation of the game, is very basic and simple, and it holds up. So I guess it really just depends.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the issue nowadays, too, is because a game like Sunshine that I've played to death so much that I have such a muscle memory of, when you know a game that well, when you play it now, it's just like, it's like, okay, I know how to get through this. Let me just get through it. You know what I mean? It's not like, I guess like I can compare it to like playing Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo. Eventually, right. I love that game, but eventually I got so good at it that it was like, okay, I'm not really playing to explore this game anymore. I'm playing to see how fast can I actually get through this game cleanly. And I think whereas in the past when I played Sunshine, it was, hey, I'm in this new area. Let me clear out all the paint I can first before I do anything. Let me try to clear out all the paint. Let me try to not get hit by anything. I want to retain all my coin. I don't want to take any damage. Mm-hmm. And if I took damage, it was like, oh my god, I gotta find a coin. I gotta find a coin right now. I need to fix this. Whereas nowadays, it's like, I got hit 3 times. It's all right. I can make it to the boss. Mm-hmm. Let's just get through this level. So I think there's a level of that as well. But I mean, like I said, it's fun, and I'm hoping to jump into Galaxy. But I mean, it's the same game. So, you know, if you liked Sunshine, you'll like it, and I'm hoping that Galaxy is just as fun to play on the Switch. But we shall see, because the controls are very tricky for Galaxy. So how they translate to the Switch will be very interesting to see. Let's get into the main part of our show, and that's last week in game news. And this week we have some of the biggest game news I think we'll have covered ever since we started this podcast, really. Microsoft has acquired ZeniMax Media, which includes Bethesda Softworks, who obviously publish and develop games like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein, Quake, Dishonored, on and on and on. Tons of games. And they also have acquired all of the related studios, so studios such as Arcane, and other studios as well. I'm not going to name them all right here. So this is a big deal. This is this has got to be one of the biggest first-party purchases of a third-party developer ever, really. I mean, this is a huge
$7.5 billion.
Billion dollars. Yes, thank you. I had forgot to mention the money. Yes, they bought it for...
You know what the crazy thing too is, like, when we were talking, like, I don't know, probably about a month ago, when there was the rumor that WB Interactive and all their subsequent like studios underneath them were up for sale. Like, AT&T was apparently pricing them at $4 billion. So Microsoft literally went and paid almost double for this. But I would argue that the value that they're getting with this purchase is far greater. I mean, sure. Yes, they would have had access to, like, maybe, it wouldn't have been guaranteed, but maybe they would have had access to, you know, the Batman Arkham series and, like, Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, which are huge. But now you've got Doom, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Dishonored. Now you also have the new Starfield game that we still know, like, nothing about.
We know it exists.
Yes, we know it exists. We know it's like a sci-fi RPG of some sort, but that's about it. We don't know anything else about it. But it's like the first new IP that Bethesda has developed on their own in 25 years. So, exciting stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously this was no coincidence that they announced this the day before the pre-orders for the Xbox Series X went live. Yep. So, I mean, obviously, this had been in the works for a long time, so it's not like they just randomly threw this together and chucked it out there. Obviously, this has been, you know, cooking for a while. But, yeah, it is a big get. Now, there's some levels of exclusivity that they're still figuring out. They say it's going to be a case-by-case basis with most games. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide going forward, like what games get multi-platform release and what games get exclusive release. Do these games get timed exclusives? Like, are they, 6 months exclusives to Series X and then released on everywhere else? We don't know quite yet. So, but yeah, that's huge. I mean, Sony bought a few big companies like Insomniac and they bought Sucker Punch, right?
Yes.
Isn't that a first party? Right. So yeah, they've bought a few big ones over the years, but I think this is the first big like wow.
Yeah.
Like I don't think really anybody predicted this either. You know what I mean? I don't think this was in.
No. If you would have told me, again, and this just add this onto the pile of unexpected things in the year 2020. But except this one's actually kind of fun and exciting and not depressing and miserable. But
Thank goodness.
If someone would have told me, Microsoft is going to acquire ZeniMax Media and everything and all the developers, in that company, I would have been like, no way. Like, no way. I mean, because Bethesda, they themselves have grown into becoming not just a big time developer, but also a big time publisher, Absolutely. And so I would have thought that they would have wanted, like, I ultimately was thinking that Bethesda's goal was to become, except not be as shady as like Activision, but to get to that level where they're a large, developing video game developer company, but also a large publisher, and sort of have that independence and autonomy. So I wouldn't have ever thought that they would be acquired by anybody else. And now Microsoft has them. And, in hindsight, like when you think about it, like the partnership kind of sort of makes sense. I mean, one, obviously Microsoft's like, the fans are like, all right, you want games? You want games? Well, we got like one of the world's best developers now under making games for Xbox. Some of the most iconic game franchises out there, and also, but their partnership goes back because Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind was on the original Xbox. And so it was on PC and it was on Xbox. And then Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion came out, I think like a few months, like 3 or 4 months after the Xbox 360 launch. And Oblivion was a big reason why the 360 sold so many units early on, So I'm just blown away. Like I am so excited. I truthfully believe that the big tentpole franchises, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, I do believe that they will remain multi-platform. I would think so too, because that because when you pay $7.5 billion for something, you are planning to recoup your money, and the easiest way to recoup that money is by allowing Bethesda's biggest franchises to remain on Sony platforms as well as being on PC and on Xbox. So,
and why limit your market is the big deal too. Why limit your market?
I mean, think about it. Skyrim sold across all platforms over 30 million copies, right? So if you take Sony out of the mix, I mean, you're more than likely cutting that number in half, right? You're probably only selling 15 million copies as opposed to 30 million or more. So, I think, though, where the benefit comes in, though, is that this is just a huge buff to Game Pass. Game Pass's value just shot through the roof, okay? So, then, like, yeah, you can get, the next Elder Scrolls game. You can get the next Fallout game. You can get the next Doom, Dishonored, Starfield. You can get all those games on PlayStation 5. But if you're on Xbox, because like when those games come out on PlayStation, you're going to have to pay $70 for them. But if you're paying $15 a month for Game Pass, when those games come out day one, you can download them on your hard drive and start playing them right away. You don't have to fork out the extra cash. So that's where the benefit comes in for Microsoft. So they don't necessarily have to have any sort of exclusivity with those titles. Now, I could imagine maybe a game like Starfield, which we still don't know anything about, but the expectation is that this is going to be a massive game, since it's Bethesda's own in-house project. It's not under id or Arcane or ZeniMax Online Studios or whatever it might be. So high expectations. I would not be surprised if Starfield, just because it's a new IP and it's not Fallout or Elder Scrolls, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft at least said, timed exclusive for Starfield.
Oh, sure.
And at least tried to maybe try and get some, move some console units, that way, and then it eventually ends up on PlayStation. But I fully expect Elder Scrolls and Fallout to remain multi-platform day one. I can see other series like Doom becoming exclusive to Xbox.
Sure.
Somebody actually someone put together like this fan art like immediately, like it was on Twitter, like the internet moves so quickly. It was a photo someone had mocked up of Doom guy, so the Marine from Doom and Master Chief sort of standing back to back to one another, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool.
Neat.
They also, like, the character designs are very similar, and everything. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is a marriage made in heaven, So I can imagine some of these games, because also Xbox has built up at least the reputation, going back to the 360 because of games like Halo, Gears of War. Or think, this is the game, like it's for first-person shooters, right? Well, Doom is the OG first-person shooter, So, what the heck? Just make Doom Xbox exclusive. I don't know how many, PlayStation gamers are also big Doom fans, but I feel like Doom's a franchise that they could probably just keep under their umbrella. I wonder how cheeky Microsoft will be if whatever games from Bethesda and the other developers that they allow to be multi-platform, I wonder if they'll put the Xbox Game Studios bumper on the front of games, when you start a game up and it shows the developers or whatever.
I'm sure
just to be a little bit cheeky, you're playing this on. You might be playing this on PlayStation, but just remember, Microsoft owns this. This is just a sort of.
I'm sure they will. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. I could totally see that happening. When this sale was first announced, people have, going back to Elder Scrolls, people have been making the jokes. A few days I've been seeing the jokes about how they found yet another way to sell Skyrim. And this time it was for $7.5 billion.
Well, they've already announced that that Doom Eternal is going to be coming on Game Pass very soon. It's going to be the first game from one of the developers that's going to be put on Game Pass. I'm not going to they'll absolutely put Skyrim Special Edition on Game Pass. Fallout 4, I think, is already on there. And everything else.
Well, and that was the other meme, is that with Skyrim going to Game Pass, the guy Todd Howard has found a way for you to pay for Skyrim forever. That was the other meme. So you gotta give it to the dude.
Gosh, Todd Howard. He's one of the few game developers that is just so he is the face of Bethesda, hands down. And it's funny, you look at him, you wouldn't say it, but in the game industry, the guy's a rock star, right? The stuff that he's done over Bethesda over the last 25 plus years has been incredible. He is led the development on some of my favorite games of all time. And Microsoft now is positioned. They have Obsidian and Bethesda, now as a part of their Xbox Game Studio family. It's the best developers at making Western RPGs. So they are literally trying to position themselves as being, if you love playing large, expansive, open world RPGs, then Xbox is the platform to. I mean, you can also do it on PC, but if you prefer a console, then Xbox is the place to do it.
Right, and that's like a good answer, because a lot of how you said, there's the perception that Xbox is always the shooter console, so this is a good answer to the fact that most people, I think, kind of view the PlayStation as more like the grand adventure video game console. You know what I mean? Like single player adventure games. So this is a perfect answer to that.
I mean, Sony, if you look at all of the games that Sony has that are all the top critically acclaimed ones, they all have sort of that same sort of look. They're dark, they're gritty, they're mature, but also the other sort of at least stylistically that they do is if not at all, but a very minimalistic HUD, right? So so you don't have a lot of visual distractions as you're playing. Those are sort of the key characteristics for a lot of Sony first party games, AAA games. And I know, and this just proves like the Microsoft knows that they have been lagging behind in the first party game, area. So now that they have, along with, they've over the last couple of years, they've now acquired with the ZeniMax Media purchase, they now have 23 brand new studios developing for them. And wow. I mean, so it'll be really, really, really exciting and interesting to see where they are 2-3 years from now, once some of these projects have, seen the light of day and we've all managed to get our hands on them and play them. I mean, I'm not going to say that Microsoft, and really at this point for me, I really don't care. I just want there to be good games to play. So whether Sony sells more units or Microsoft sells more units, honestly, Microsoft, there are a lot of Sony people online. Twitter, oh my God, Twitter was awful. People were screaming bloody murder because of this acquisition. But I was like, you know what? Be happy that Microsoft was the one to acquire Bethesda, because they're willing to play ball and they're willing to share. Okay, if Sony had the means, if they had, because let's face it, Sony doesn't have the money to make that kind of acquisition. Microsoft is a $1.5 trillion company. And I think Sony's like 50 billion or something like that. So there's a huge disparity in company value there. So
right.
But if Sony somehow did have the means, they would keep it all for themselves. Like, they wouldn't be sharing it on PC or on Xbox, So the fact that Microsoft has it means that everybody still gets to enjoy it. And really, it means better, because now you have this large, massive, company that has an infinite amount of resources, right, that can only help these games be even better. These games can be even bigger, even better, even, especially now we got more powerful hardware coming, so you need the money to take advantage of it. Game development costs are going up, and now you have one of the richest companies in the world helping pay for the development of these games. So be happy.
And going back to like this, yeah, oh, absolutely, I agree 100%. I totally agree. I don't think this is I think it's big news for Microsoft. I don't think it's like a blow to Sony in any way.
No.
Because I think you're right. I think Bethesda will share, and I think they'll eventually see the fruits of it. But here, and going back to your point about the difference between the consoles. So, yes, I'm with you. I have nothing against Xbox or Microsoft. You know what I mean? I think this console cycle is about convincing people to buy an alternative second console. That's what I think this console generation really comes down to, because if you're a Sony person, you're a Sony person. You're in the system. If you're a Microsoft person, you're a Microsoft person. You're in their ecosystem. That's not going to change. We saw the pre-orders for the Series X and the PS5 both went like that.
Right.
So clearly there's no slowdown in any way, shape, or form. So like for me, for example, I haven't played an Xbox or owned an Xbox, I should say, since the 360. But with a $300 Series S, with Game Pass, I am absolutely considering that sometime in the future. Maybe like a year from now or something.
Mm-hmm.
If I can get the Series S for $300 and have the Game Pass, and then I'll play I don't have to outright buy all these games that I might not like buy on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have Game Pass and I can just play them, that's a huge incentive for me. You know what I mean? So I think that's what this generation is all about, and this is a big get for Microsoft in that aspect, where all these games that, to be honest, I really have never played a Fallout, really. I mean, I've played them maybe here and there, but not really. So that would be a great incentive for me to onboard the Fallout series, is to come to the Series S with $300, get the Game Pass, and then be able to play it. I mean, that sounds awesome to me. I'd be okay with that.
So I think with Microsoft, with the Series S, obviously $300, I think, that was it was like a twofold sort of thing, where they're saying, here's a console that can be your second option if you're someone who wants to have your PS5 as your primary console of choice, or it's a budget option for somebody who wants to dip their toes in the next gen pool but not have to pay $400, $500 to do so. Mm-hmm. I think Sony's game plan is to be all in. Like, we want to be your primary console. We don't want to be your budget option. We don't want to be your secondary option. But if the Series S sells well, if this approach works out, then I would not be surprised if Sony says, okay, we wouldn't mind, making a little extra money by getting some, some console purchases from people who view Xbox as their primary source, and they then go the same route and offer a less powerful, like all digital PS5 for like $300 if they were to eventually copy Microsoft and go that same approach. But maybe. I feel like, though, when it comes to the secondary console market, I feel like most people just, I think, go with the Switch.
I mean, sure. Yeah, that's true.
And I think, because, Nintendo's been at it longer than Sony and Microsoft have, even though Sony and Microsoft have sort of set themselves up as being the place to go if you're a hardcore gamer. Well, it's like PC, PlayStation, or Xbox, and Nintendo's the more lighthearted, casual, not as many like hardcore gamer experiences. But I disagree. Partially true, but I do think everything that Nintendo does well is meant for the gamer at heart. They make a lot of great games, but also like the fact that the Switch is portable and everything, it works just really well as being a secondary console to have, right?
Sure.
So, I do believe that it was in Microsoft's mind to make the Series S sort of both a budget option and a secondary console for the Sony gamers, but I don't know. It's really what I'm hoping for as this generation moves forward is that we just do away with as much as possible the whole idea of exclusive games, right?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it really just hurts gamers, right?
Absolutely.
Because I am almost certain that there are some people who they've invested a lot of their money into the Microsoft ecosystem. Everything's just right there. And so it doesn't make as much sense for them to make the Switch or the PlayStation. But they really want to play God of War. They really want to play Horizon. They really want to play The Last of Us. They really want to play Spider-Man. But they can't, right? So
yeah.
I don't know if this will be because here's the other thing too. And it was a really good point that I heard made was that Microsoft could use the acquisition of Bethesda to maybe try and like get Sony to play ball, right? Like we might actually we'll sit here, and I'm sitting here and I'm saying, oh, without a doubt, Microsoft is gonna make sure that Fallout and Elder Scrolls remain multi-platform. But I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft sort of behind the scenes goes to Sony and be like, hey, Like, if you really want Elder Scrolls and Fallout to be on PlayStation 5, then we got to work out some sort of deal here, and we got to, and maybe, we scratch your back, you scratch ours sort of situation,
That's an interesting theory. I mean, that definitely seems like something they could do.
I mean, again, because the game series that Microsoft has now acquired, I mean, they again, like you're talking about, I mean, Fallout and Elder Scrolls are, I mean, for me personally, I would say top 5, but definitely 2 of the top 10 video game franchises of the last, 15 years. I mean, they've sold like hotcakes, tens of millions of copies across multiple games. And so there's a lot of money to be made. And truthfully, again, Microsoft, just because of the size of the company, if they wanted to, they could just say, yeah, Elder Scrolls and Fallout only on PC and Xbox.
Sure,
they would make less money, but it wouldn't really hurt them financially to do it.
Right.
Right. It would only
not in the long run.
It would obviously benefit them financially to put it on PlayStation, but it wouldn't hurt them to keep it off. You know what I mean? If that
they
makes
have
any
the
sense.
leverage in this scenario.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So
yeah, they have the leverage. Yeah.
So I mean, there are a number, like I said, there are a number of game titles exclusive to Sony that, Xbox players would love to be able to have on Xbox. I mean, do I envision it ever happening? No. I mean, it's sort of a pipe dream, but I mean, but like some examples, like I could not ever envision like God of War being on Xbox, right?
Sure.
But
yeah, probably not.
I can envision a world where maybe Spider-Man is on Xbox,
Could be.
or maybe or whatever, not Miles Morales, but whatever the technical Spider-Man 2 is. Maybe like if Microsoft were to try and work out something where it's like, listen, if you get Insomniac to do Spider-Man 2 for Xbox Series X, we'll make sure that Elder Scrolls 6 is on PlayStation 5. Something like that. Yeah. I can envision a deal like that being made, but it'll be really interesting. Like my hope is that the sort of like the line drawn in the sand between both sides is sort of blurred as the next few years go by.
Let's hope for more bipartisan cooperation between video game companies. Look, in the console wars, Microsoft and Sony are, the big two parties that fight each other in an election.
Nintendo's the Green Party, sort of.
Yeah. I was gonna say Nintendo's like the libertarian who like sits in the corner, like tries to get like, hey guys, I'm here too. And then the PC is basically like the PM of New Zealand or something.
Yeah, right.
Where they're just doing their own thing, and it doesn't really matter. So that I thought of that analogy the other day. I was like, hey, there we go. But yeah, I agree. I hope this leads to more cooperation between companies in the future, as opposed to exclusivity.
Yeah.
Because I agree 100%. The world's better when we all get to play together, when we all get to play the games that we all want to play.
Yeah, I do.
Wherever we want to play.
I do think that will probably be one of the first things to happen early on in the generation, is I think Sony will come around on the whole cross-play thing.
Right.
I think that they'll sort of open the doors to that. And that'll be the first step in the right direction to bringing both sides together.
Sure. All right. We have just a few more quick hit news. Unfortunately, when it comes to the next gen consoles, we might not get our consoles in time. Apparently, Amazon has sent the same notice out to people who pre-ordered the Series X that they sent out to the PS5 pre-orders, that you might not get your console on the day that it's supposed to come out. Which, I mean, it's disappointing. But, I mean, the bundle I ordered, for example, GameStop said it won't even ship until, like, November 30th. So, I mean, that's a bummer.
Well, that's a placeholder. Because I remember at GameStop, new releases would either be dated for the first of the month or the end of the month. So, It'll probably be somewhere in the middle of November. I don't think it'll be that late. You'll probably get it sooner than that.
I hope so, because I mean, I can wait, but like I'm so excited for this new generation and to play new gaming experiences. To I want to end this horrible, crappy year on a good note. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm hoping for. So hopefully it all works out for the best. Hopefully everybody gets their consoles on time. But unfortunately, that's news that is out there. Also, real quick hitter as well. We talked about this last week where we were talking about the PlayStation Plus collection not including Spider-Man. Well, a big reason for that is that the Ultimate Edition of Spider-Man Miles Morales comes with a remastered Spider-Man.
Gotcha.
So now it's odd though, because apparently this remastered Spider-Man is coming with assets and like details and updates that apparently they're going to include in the sequel, the true sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a remaster with an upgrade portion, but none of your save files transfer. So it's a very weird remaster situation. Like it's basically you're paying $20 for a remastered version of Spider-Man, because the Ultimate Edition of Miles Morales is $70.
Okay.
So
that's
you're
not,
basically
that's not terrible. That's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah, that's not too bad. So that was, I just wanted to clarify that because we talked about that last week, and I knew I had heard something about the remaster, but I didn't know what the exact details were. So that's the deal. So, and that pretty much clarifies that Miles Morales is not necessarily a sequel. It's more like an Uncharted Lost Legacy side story.
It's probably bridging the gap
right.
between Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like the mid-tier of an annualized series. Like, it's like, okay, here's the holdover game until we get to the next big upgrade next year.
Sure.
So, I mean, you know what? Regardless, I'll be excited to play it once I have my PlayStation 5. I will be super stoked. So.
I would imagine Spider-Man 2 will probably be a 2022 game, with God of War probably being the big fall 2021 release.
And Horizon Forbidden West as well. I mean, now that's probably won't be the fall. It's hard to predict exactly, but
it'll probably be summer or late summer, like probably maybe like September,
right,
or something like that. And,
that'd be awesome if you
God
got God
of
War and Horizon Forbidden West in next year. Ooh, that's gonna.
Well, I mean, they've already said 2021 for both of those games, so
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I would say maybe like September for Horizon and then November for God of War. Or it could be October, November. I don't know. I mean, either way, two big first-party franchises coming out next year for PlayStation.
Wrapping up, we are on to our favorite part of the show. It's called Jump Button Trivia. It's called that, but it's really a guessing game. And this is between me and Kosta. Now, we tried to name the name of a game based on 3 lines of a review of that game. So we're given 1 line at a time, and if we can guess the game that's being described after that first line, we get 3 points. If we need 2 lines, it goes down to 2 points, and then it's down to 1 point if we guess the game correctly after we hear all 3 lines. If at any point we guess it incorrectly and we're wrong, well, I guess that's the same thing. If we guess the game and we're wrong, we get 0 points. I think I made that clear enough, right? Incorrect? Yeah. So this is a running game between us. Kosta, Mr. Scorekeeper, where are we at?
It's 10-7.
10-7 me, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yay! All right, I will look to maintain that momentum, but Kosta, let's go with yours first.
Okay.
All right, you ready? You ready? This is big, man. You gotta get your ketchup here, you know?
All right.
All right, let's do it. Line number 1. Concerned parents needn't worry, as the gratuitous action of Grand Theft Auto has been scaled back a bit, but there's still plenty of carnage and crashing to be found here.
I mean, my initial thought is that, because there's really, my mind immediately draws to Saints Row, but I want the second clue.
Okay. Clue number 2. Run over too many pedestrians or crush too many mailboxes, and the cops will start hunting you down with a vengeance.
Oh no, that's not Saints Row. I don't think so. I'm trying to think. What is something like Grand Theft Auto? I have. Gosh, I'm not gonna be gaining much ground this week.
Just to throw this out there, I have a feeling you'll get it with the last clue for sure.
I mean, I'm pretty much certain I'm going to need the last clue.
Okay, all right. A series of missions allows the players to experience a fairly involved story, beginning first with Homer, before moving on to play as Bart, Lisa, Marge, and Apu.
Okay. It's was it Simpsons Hit and Run?
Yes. Boom,
Okay.
boom, boom. You got it. Oh, what the? Good job. 1
Okay.
point. Woohoo!
I don't know why I completely
Ding, ding,
forgot
ding.
about the Simpsons Hit and Run. Like why that didn't register with me. Honestly,
See,
I actually never played it, but I mean I know the game, but I've
Really?
never played it. Yeah.
You never played Hit and Run?
No.
Oh, dude. That was the best game. Like, I mean, obviously it was like a cheap Grand Theft Auto knockoff, but like,
Yeah.
but it really made you feel like The Simpsons. You could like kick all like the neighbors and stuff like that. Like it was a hilarious game. Like, and it was so much better than their first game, which was a Crazy Taxi ripoff.
Yeah.
They took that idea and expanded it and said, "Hey, Grand Theft Auto, that's a good groundwork for this." But it was cool. It was fun to experience the Simpsons world in Grand Theft Auto style. If you ever have a chance to play it, I would say play it. It's fun. I mean, granted, the game mechanics are probably outdated nowadays, and the mission structures are very outdated, but it might still be worth it, at least for the lulz.
All right. So now I have 8 points.
Woohoo! You're
All right.
catching up.
All right. I'll give you.
Now it's time to crush you like a bug. All
All
right,
right.
do
see.
this.
Let's see. All right. First clue. It's a fascinating world with a memorable cast, not to mention an interesting overarching tension between mystical pagan magic and industrialization.
Oh, man. What was that last part? Industrial what and magic?
So it's a fascinating world with a memorable cast, not to mention an interesting overarching tension between mystical pagan magic and industrialization.
Pagan magic. Okay. And industrialization. Ooh. That's tough. Pagan magic. Industrialization.
Now that I think about it, for anyone who's probably played this game would probably be able to we'll probably get on that clue, but I wasn't sure if you had played it or not. So
most likely not. I'm just gonna be honest. But give me line number 2, please, sir.
All right. The entire game can be completed without killing a single person, so guards can be avoided or knocked unconscious, and non-lethal options can be found for assassination targets.
Oh. I mean, obviously that's kind of leaning towards Assassin's Creed now. But, I mean, I would guess it's Odyssey, but I don't know if you describe that as pagan. Or I could be being misled by the word assassin. Could be an intentional misleading clue. I'm going to chicken out and give me line number 3, please.
All right. Unlike so many video game protagonists, Corvo is not preordained to be a mass murderer.
Oh, man. Okay. Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
No.
No?
The answer is Dishonored.
Oh, I have not played it. Okay.
In honor of the acquisition.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good one.
I was like, I didn't want to pick one that would be too easily to guess, like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, so I went with
Yeah,
Dishonored.
fair enough. No, I like that though. I like the themed choice.
No, I don't know.
That's
I don't
smart.
know if because there was one clue I was thinking of. I don't know if since you never played, I don't know if you would have known, but the line basically points out like in the game if you kill a lot of people, it changes the game. The more violent you are, like you have more rats, more guards. Like the game just gets like more kind of chaotic.
Right, sure.
The more violent you are, and there was a clue in there about that. I don't know if that I was leaning towards. Well, I don't know if that would have clued you in.
Depending on the wording, maybe. I mean, I probably because that's like a medieval set game, isn't it?
No, it's like
Okay.
it's like in
Is it like just a fantasy?
In what's the word like Industrial Revolution England.
Oh, wow. I was thinking of For Honor. And yeah, Dishonored is a different game. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, I never played it, so most likely I wouldn't have got it.
Great game.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Highly recommend playing it.
All right.
It's everything that Thief should have been. I talked about Thief earlier. Dishonored was everything that Thief should have been.
And I was going to say, if I end up getting an Xbox Series S and Game Pass, who knows? Maybe that'll be one of those games that I play on it. That'd be nice.
You should.
We shall see, sir. Well, that's it for our show today, everybody. We hope you all enjoyed. We had a great time. This was a great episode. You can connect with us on Twitter and Facebook with @JumpButtonPod. Until next time, see you in the funny papers. Thanks for listening to Jump Button Gamer Podcast. You can find video highlights of this episode on YouTube. Just search for Jump Button Podcast. If you have a question or comment about our show, email us at jumpbuttonpodcast@gmail.com and it may be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe.